I wanted to surprise my wife by flying to see her while she was on a work trip since I love her. However, the realization that some surprises are only enjoyable for one person struck me like a lightning bolt at breakfast. Jake was already half asleep, absorbed in whatever game he was playing on his phone, while Lily was prodding at her porridge. Emily had been gone for 3 days, with 4 more to go. 7 days. Far too long. I put down my coffee and said, "What if we went to see Mom?" Lily's eyes widened. "Just show up, okay? We can arrange flights today and arrive tonight." When Jake finally looked up, his reaction was kind of cool, especially for a 13-year-old. It meant he was genuinely thrilled. So I grabbed onto that excitement and ran with it. In just a few hours, we had tickets booked. Enthusiasm was high. I could already imagine Emily opening the door to her hotel room. The anticipation buzzed, in the air like static electricity. She'd gasp in surprise, embrace us all, maybe even shed a tear or two. We hadn't had a moment like that in years. But when I called Emily that morning, she didn't answer. That was unusual. So I sent her a text. "Hey, hope work's going well. Kids and I just wanted to hear your voice." An hour passed. No response. A little strange. But business trips get busy. When we landed in Chicago that night, the city was alive. Horns blaring, lights flashing. I rented a car, filled it with my excited kids, and breathed in the crisp downtown air. As I entered Emily's hotel address into the GPS, my heart started to race. I had promised myself I wouldn't call her before we arrived. I wanted it to be a complete surprise. But suddenly, something inside me twisted, a terrible itch in the back of my mind. I punched the dial again. No answer. 9:43 p.m. Not that late. Maybe she was just busy. Or had fallen asleep. 5 minutes before reaching the hotel, I tried again. Straight to voicemail. The kids were laughing in the back seat, but I barely heard them. My grip on the wheel had tightened. My heart was pounding. Finally, I pulled into the hotel entrance. "Wait!" "In the car," I told the kids. Lily, bouncing on her toes, asked, "We're gonna jump out at her, right?" I forced a smile. "Yeah, let me just grab our room key first." At the check-in desk, I smiled at the receptionist. "Hey, my wife is staying here, Emily Carter. I wanted to surprise her. Could you tell me her room number?" The receptionist gave a polite smile. "I'm sorry, sir, but we can't give out guest room numbers." I slid my credit card across the counter. "That's fine. Could you at least call her room and let her know her husband's here?" She nodded, picked up the phone, and dialed. I watched. Her expression shifted. "Oh," she muttered, her eyes meeting mine. I felt a knot in my stomach. "Maybe she's just asleep," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. The woman hesitated. Then, "Sir, she checked in." With a +1. The world tilted. A +1. I blinked. Yes, the room is in her name. But she added another guest. I laughed, a dry, humorless chuckle. When you fly across the country to surprise your wife, the mother of your children, what else can you do? The receptionist looked nervous. "Sir," she started, hesitating. "Who's the guest?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. "I'm sorry, but I can't disclose that information." I exhaled slowly through my nose. "All right." Her fingers flew over the keyboard. She knew what she was doing. A minute later, I was holding a room key. I went back to the kids, plastering a smile on my face. "We're all set," I said. Lily skipped beside me. Jake stayed glued to his phone. They had no idea. As we entered our room, I told them to settle in and order room service. Then, I stepped out. Emily's room was 4 doors down. My heart pounded. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again. Harder. Nothing. I pulled out my phone. "Hey, I'm at your hotel. Open the door." Silence. I clenched my jaw, pivoted, went back downstairs. The receptionist looked surprised to see me again. I slid my keycard across the counter. "I locked myself out. Can I get a new one?" She nodded, tapping at her keyboard. Then casually I added, "Oh, and could you put my wife's room on my key? We always do that when she travels." She hesitated. Then, beep. She handed me the card. I went back upstairs. Room 814. I let out a slow breath. If I was wrong, I'd look crazy. If I was right, I slid the key card in. Beep. The stench hit me first. Sweat, cologne, something else. The room was dimly lit, a bedside lamp casting shadows. And there she was, Emily, tangled in bed, with another man. At first I didn't even recognize his face, but it didn't matter. My wife, the mother of my children, lying there, barely, covered by the sheets, her eyes locked with mine, and there was something in them, not guilt, not shame, irritation, like my presence was an inconvenience. She gasped, scrambled for the covers. Jason? The man beside her stirred, confused. I stepped inside, closed the door. "Who is he?" I asked, my voice eerily calm. Emily looked between us like she was calculating her next move. "Jason, this isn't what it looks like." The man blinked up at me, still groggy. Then his face went pale. Emily swallowed hard. "I can't believe you're in a hotel bed, naked, with another man." She sighed, rubbing her temples, like I was the problem. "Jason, you're overreacting." I let out a slow, humorless laugh. "Overreacting?" Emily folded her arms. "You always blow things out of proportion." I took a step closer. "Lily and Jake are down the hall," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Her face twisted. "You should have told me you were coming, Jason." The room tilted. Ryan, the man in bed, muttered under his breath. "Yeah, I'm out." He grabbed his things and left, but I just stood there, looking at the woman I knew, and realizing I didn't know her at all. "Don't be dramatic, Jason," I chuckled to myself as my face twisted into something unsightly. I hadn't regarded myself as dramatic, but I left her standing in the ruins of everything she had destroyed and walked out the door. As I moved along the hotel hallway, my body felt heavy, as if someone had bound my legs together, bricks pressing against my shoulders. But my mind urged me to press on. My children were in room 810, just down the hall. While we waited, Lily was most likely sitting cross-legged on the bed, still jumping with delight and laughing at a cartoon. Jake was probably already halfway. Through a burger he had ordered from room service, texting his friends about how sick Chicago was. They had no idea their mother had just split our family in two in a dimly lit hotel room with a man named Ryan. When I halted in front of our door, 8-8 to 810, I had no idea that the father who had left was no longer the same person. Their mother was most likely still sitting in bed, running her hands through her hair, just 4 rooms away. I clenched my jaw in frustration. Not shame, not heartbreak, so hard that it hurt. Then I swiped the key card and it beeped green. The door opened, and before I could step inside, Lily squealed and came racing toward me. "Did you see her, Daddy?" she asked, so thrilled that she almost cried. A lump formed in my throat as she wrapped her little arms around my waist, suffocating me. I swallowed the bile rising in my throat and forced a grin. "Not yet, sweetie," I whispered, running a hand over her silky curls. "I'll see you in the morning, all right?" Her tiny face wrinkled in confusion, but she simply nodded, letting it go. Her trust was so pure. Jake, lying on his bed with one arm. Behind his head, half watching TV, asked, "What's the plan?" He tossed fries into his mouth, waiting for an answer. My thoughts went blank. I had no plan. Just 4 doors away, their mother was probably scrambling for an explanation, acting as if nothing was wrong. "You guys want to do something fun?" I asked, abruptly changing my voice to something more normal. "I don't know. Get some ice cream?" Lily gasped, like I had just told her we won the lottery. Jake arched an eyebrow, but shrugged. "I know why," he muttered. "Not cool." I reached for my wallet and stuffed it into my jacket. Lily rushed to get her shoes, and Jake tucked his phone into his pocket. I took one last glance around the room, the same room that, an hour ago, had felt like a joyful family getaway. We weren't coming back. As soon as we stepped outside the hotel, the night air hit me like a tonic. I needed it, since nothing else felt real anymore. I focused on breathing. Lily took my hand, swinging our arms as we strolled down the crowded Chicago sidewalk. Jake shoved his hands into his hoodie pocket, his headphones resting around his neck. He looked around as if he was really enjoying this. I tried to ignore the weight of my phone in my pocket, waiting for her call, her text, something. But all I could feel was the burning coals of rage sitting heavy in my stomach. "How many scoops?" Lily asked, nearly skipping beside me. I mustered a smile. "3, Jake snorted. "Dad's in a fantastic mood." Lily's whole face brightened. We found a small ice cream shop, its neon lights casting a warm glow on the dim streets, the sweet aroma of waffle cones filling the air. It reminded me of a past life, when surprise trips meant joy instead of tragedy. Lily got rainbow, Jake got chocolate fudge with sprinkles, and I got something I couldn't even name. We sat at a small table near the window. For a moment, it almost felt normal. Lily chatted about school, Jake teased her for coloring outside the lines, and I nodded and chuckled at the right moments. Then my phone buzzed, my gut twisted. I already knew who it was. I pulled it out and stared at the screen. "Emily." My thumb hovered over the message. I shut off the phone and put it back in my pocket. "Dad?" Jake's voice pulled me back. He squinted at me, too smart for his own good. I hesitated. Then, for the first time that night, I gave him a real smile. "I'm good, buddy," I said, looking between him and Lily. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't thinking about her. I was thinking about us. By the time we got back to the hotel, I had already decided we weren't staying. It didn't matter that we had booked the trip for 2 extra people. It didn't matter that our bags were still in that room. I was getting my kids out of here before this mess could touch them. As we stepped into the elevator, I forced my voice into a casual tone. "Guys, change of plans," Lily guessed immediately. "We're going home tonight?" Jake furrowed his brows. "Why? What about Mom?" I let out a slow breath. Jake wasn't stupid. He knew something was off, but Lily was too young to notice the cracks in my voice. I forced a smile. "We'll surprise her when we get home." The elevator dinged. As we stepped out, I saw her, Emily, standing right outside our room, arms crossed. Lily lit up and ran toward her, but I caught her by the shoulders just in time. "Go inside, Lil," I said, firm but calm. Jake hesitated, looking from Emily to me, sensing something was wrong. But in the end, he nodded and took Lily's hand. "Come on, Lil." The door shut behind them, and then it was just the 2 of us. Emily exhaled sharply. "What the hell, Jason?" I said nothing, just watched her. Her hair was messy. She looked frantic, as if she had been pacing ever since I left her in that room with Ryan. She scoffed. "Oh, so now you're not talking?" I clenched my jaw. "What do you want, Emily?" "I want to talk to you," she snapped. "You left like a crazy person, took our kids, and vanished." "Do you know how that looks?" I let out a quiet, bitter laugh. "I'm sorry. Does it look like you're a bad wife and mother, Emily?" Her face twisted. "Jason, lower your voice." "Or what?" I stepped closer. You don't get to tell me what to do anymore. For the first time, I saw it. Fear. Not of me, of what she had done. Please, she tried again, softer this time. Let me inside so we can talk. I shook my head. There's nothing to talk about. Her voice cracked. Jason, our family. I let the silence stretch, let her squirm in it. Then finally I said the words I knew would shatter her. You should have thought about that before you slept with another man. Her face crumbled. For the first time that night, she looked like she truly felt it. I pulled out my room key, opened the door, and stepped inside. Before shutting it, I glanced back at her one last time. I'm filing for divorce when we get home. Then I shut the door in her face. Lily swung her tiny legs over the bed. Who was that? I forced a smile. Just a hotel worker, baby. Jake, leaning against the headboard, watched me closely. Was it Mom? I sighed, running a hand down my face. He already knew the answer. We weren't going back. That night, I booked a one-way flight home. No return. As we sat at the gate, Lily half asleep against my side, her small fingers curled around my sleeve. I felt it. For the first time in years, I wasn't just leaving, I was taking my life back.